Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you guys are feeling well out there on this Monday morning. I know I'm feeling much better, and probably the best I've felt on a Monday morning in the last couple weeks. Feeling a little rejuvenated. Was able to actually get up and do my normal routine, so it felt great. It was hard. It was certainly hard trying to get back in routines. Always difficult, but I was able to do it. But I hope you guys are doing well. I got a lot to discuss this morning, but we're going to try to run through it as quick as possible. Stay tuned for tonight. We'll get much more detail. We now have subtropical storm Nicole, and is actually forecast to hit Florida. It could make two landfalls. It could sneak out into the Gulf of Mexico, make an additional landfall in Florida. So it could make two Florida landfalls. We're going to give you some updated information. Working on consistently putting timestamps in this video. So give me about 30-45 minutes after I drop the video, and I'll certainly get you guys some timestamps. I know that is much easier to do, especially sometimes I like to just yap in these intros. It's just my way and my flow of going into videos. It certainly helps me out when I'm beginning a video. But we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about what's going to happen today weather-wise. We're not going to leave that out, certainly. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the support, and looking certainly happy to get back in routine, that's for sure. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, and so others can do so too. So let's get rocking here. The latest update, we'll talk about the tropics first, guys. Because it's pretty important. We have subtropical storm Nicole. I know you're wondering, what does it mean that it's subtropical? Well, it lacks true warm core tropical characteristics. Therefore, a lot of times with these storms, they have a little bit less rain. They're kind of everywhere structure-wise. They don't look that great when you look at it on satellite visibility, on satellite just in general, whether it be water vapor loop or just visibility. A lot of times they just kind of look strung out, but sometimes they can be worse. They're very broad, large storms, and they can bring sometimes more widespread impacts. Maybe not as significant as an all-out hurricane, but a lot of times they can bring more widespread impacts. But right now, you got subtropical storm Nicole. It's a 45-mile-per-hour storm. Notice the tropical storm force winds extend out from the core pretty far, and it looks like, as of right now, we'll see if it maintains the same structure, it's a backloaded storm, meaning the worst conditions are certainly on its east side. That could be good news if we can keep this thing a little bit further away from land, but the National Hurricane Center has this sometime Wednesday night into Thursday morning just off the eastern shoreline of Florida. It makes landfall sometime Thursday morning, and then it potentially can get back over the northeast Gulf of Mexico, make an additional landfall in the Big Bend areas. But one thing you notice is it maintains tropical storm status all the way up through South Carolina. Goes through Georgia, South Carolina. By 2 a.m. Saturday, it's saying that could potentially be right into here. I love using this site. It's called Zoom Earth. It's a great site to look at here. This is our system. It doesn't look great, but we weren't expecting it to look that great. So it's going to probably potentially strengthen into a 50-mile-per-hour storm sometime tonight. And if we go on and just skip forward, we're getting into around 1 p.m. Wednesday. Should make maybe a landfall in the northern Bahamas as maybe a 70-mile-per-hour subtropical storm. We'll see if it gets to that 75-mile-per-hour mark, which would make it a hurricane. Technically, it's 74 miles per hour, but it doesn't go up in increments of 4 miles per hour. So we'll see if it can become a hurricane. Right now, the National Hurricane Center has it just shy of hurricane status. Has it right here, 70 mile per hour. That's a strong subtropical storm. Just off, like I said, the eastern shorelines of Florida, somewhere in between maybe Melbourne or West Palm Beach, somewhere into there. Right now, it likes it making a landfall well north of Miami, but we'll certainly see what happens. This can move back and forth. Then it potentially gets back over water. I can tell you, I'm about to show you the latest model guidance. A lot of model guidance, the big dogs, the GFS and the European, now have this moving back over water. So the GFS actually shows it deepening again, which means it strengthens and then makes an additional landfall in the Big Bend areas. But I mean, look, it's still a 50-mile-per-hour storm, 1 a.m. Saturday, as it's starting to chug through the Carolinas. So there's going to be a pretty big precipitation field to it. It's not going to be symmetrical. It's going to be everywhere. It really is. Certain areas that are pretty close to the actual center might not receive a ton of rain, but we just got to see what happens. So this is the actual satellite view of this system. Notice, you're probably looking at this and you're thinking, what, that's a tropical storm? Well, it is. If you see the spin, there's a little low-level spin right into here. This is probably a bunch of rain. I'd argue that Bermuda is probably seeing some rain right now from this. Certainly some gusty winds, but this will start to make a turn back west and then southwest. We'll talk about what's steering this tonight. I did it last night. If you really want to know what's going on with steering, not a whole lot's changed with this, but a ridge is really going to build on top of this to the north and really jolt this system back southwest, potentially gets it back over the Gulf, and like I said, makes an additional landfall in Florida. 2 dual landfalls in Florida. So we got to see what this is going to look like by the time I'm with you guys this evening. We'll look at the latest GFS. Has it make the GFS? It's just the GFS. Wednesday morning has it making landfall as a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure, around a 992 millibar low, and then it makes landfall somewhere around a 984 millibar low overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. And this would be close to hurricane status, probably a low-end Category 1 or a strong tropical storm like what the National Hurricane Center is predicting, which I totally support. I think it's a great forecast as of now. This makes landfall and then moves over the peninsula of Florida throughout Thursday morning, brings a lot of heavy rains to Tampa Bay and surrounding regions, but fully emerges this back over the northeast Gulf of Mexico. And you watch this number as it begins to drop again. It goes from 985 back down to a 983, and then makes an additional landfall Friday evening into the Big Bend areas of Florida, then rides this, and then it goes due northeast. It doesn't even move it any further inland and actually gets it back over off the coast of the southeast, scrapes the Carolina coastline, bringing rains. We'll get as detailed as we can tonight, and here comes that powerful cold front that's going to flip our pattern back to cold across the eastern U.S. I had a couple people ask about New Jersey, areas in the Northeast. Stay tuned tonight. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how close this storm could potentially get. The latest European, I like what the European is showing more. It shows more of a subtropical storm, very broad, massive precipitation field, and brings us over the Bahamas throughout the day Wednesday. It brings a lot of heavy rain, gusty winds, makes a landfall pretty far south, moves this over the central peninsula of Florida, starts to jolt it a little bit northwest, moves the center of whatever this is going to be at this point, Thursday afternoon over Tampa Bay, bringing a lot of heavy rain. And then now the European has this re-emerging back into the northeast Gulf of Mexico here, and it even deepens the storm briefly, but doesn't really strengthen it much, makes an additional landfall. But if you notice the European, look at the mass, all the rainfall well north of the center, getting pushed all the way up into West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia. So this would bring a soggy day for your Friday, really gusty winds, and potentially could bring some severe weather. We need to watch that. But the Euro brings this much further inland as we're getting into Friday into the Saturday morning, and the European would be a much more impactful scenario for the Northeast. Would bring a lot of heavy rain potential there, so we'll watch that for sure. We look at the European as far as wind gusts. We're not going to stay on this long, but if you notice the European, broad wind field, not anything too crazy. Most of the gusty winds are offshore. The center of the storm is emerging right here, but this is bringing an intense east-northeast wind into Florida. It's bringing a pretty intense east-northeast wind into the Carolinas. So this is potentially going to bring a lot of onshore flooding and onshore winds. It's going to be very gusty. But if you notice, I mean, the winds get quite gusty as we're getting probably as early as tomorrow. You're going to already start to feel the breeze all the way up into the Carolinas. As basically this system actually brings in some dry air out the northeast tomorrow that will jolt us back to fall weather here in the Carolinas and areas of Georgia. But the European, as we're getting into Wednesday afternoon, brings some gusty winds for the entire state of Florida, just about, except the far western panhandle of Florida. Well, just, 15, 20 mile per hour wind gusts, not too bad, nothing y'all can't handle. And then it starts to bring the core onshore right here, but you notice there's no wall, if you will, like hurricane eye wall or anything like that, or tropical storm wall. There's no intense winds near the center. It's very broad. It's all to the north, and a lot of the winds, probably due to land friction or something, is offshore, but it could certainly be gusty. I favor this scenario over the GFS, which certainly shows more of a warm core. I just think this is going to be more subtropical in nature. It's November. The GFS has a core around the center right here that brings 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts. I'm just not buying that right now. In fact, it's trended away. If you watched the video last night, it's actually trended away from such an intense core around the center of circulation. But the GFS is correct to bring widespread 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts for most of the peninsula of Florida. So it's just something we need to watch. We'll get much more detail tonight. Precipitation is the blend of all models. This is the latest one. Keeps most of the heaviest rain along the coastal regions. A lot of the eastern Carolinas gets a lot of rain. You got to get pretty deep into southeast Georgia to get a lot of rain. But this could bring a lot of rain potential for the entire eastern coastline, especially as the further east you work. But there's going to be a sharp cutoff in rain, and it's going to upset some people, I tell you that, who really need the rain. That some people haven't gotten a lot of rain since Ian. So we're certainly watching this. But stay tuned tonight, guys. I'll get you a much more detailed version of this tonight. But let's talk about what's going to happen today. We got some downpours out here, some storms kind of flying through the Mid-South region, through areas of Arkansas, Mississippi. This will continue throughout the day. We'll bring some light rains. The storms will diminish, some light rains in northeast Arkansas, maybe into southeast Missouri a little bit later this evening. And we could certainly get some tropical downpours. Yes, tropical downpours, most likely, that could actually drift in from the north as the wind direction shifts, as some dry air starts to filter in. So we could certainly see some burst of heavy rain potential for the upstate of South Carolina, North Georgia. We'll watch that. Then, of course, you see Nicole beginning to emerge into the picture. The Northeast, you're dealing with some showers in southern New England this morning. But outside of that, not a whole lot going on today. South Central U.S., dealing with some pop-up showers and storms this morning, will continue to be the case throughout the day. About the heart of Texas into Dallas-Fort Worth area, could certainly see some pop-up rain showers. We just discussed Missouri and Arkansas. And then the North Central U.S., you could have a round of snow as some cold areas begin to filter in into the Dakotas. A round of snow can make its way from northwest areas of South Dakota into basically most of the state of North Dakota. So you guys could certainly see some snow. Some snow will make it into the northwest corner of Minnesota also. So big storm, we'll talk about that too, potential for the north central U.S. We'll give you an update on that also tonight. It's always exciting talking about snow. Temperatures today beginning to cool back off. If you live in Iowa, points north, Nebraska, points north, even Kansas, beginning to cool back off. There's a little bit of a gradient where it's into the 60s, into the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi Valley. If you live along the I-95 corridor in the northeast, it'll be kind of warm today. Probably humid. It's been a very humid air mass across the extreme eastern U.S., especially the southeast. But pretty average temperatures across the interior and northeast, maybe a little above average in certain areas. Certainly not below average yet. But there's a cold air mass coming. We'll give you an update on that tonight. Stay tuned tonight. We're going to talk about a lot. But it's certainly cold up in the Dakotas, but a very warm day across the southeast. Record-breaking temperatures are likely today. Most likely today. And not just that, you're going to have a pretty humid air mass in place. These are dew points. But the good news is, guys, if you live in certain areas of the southeast, I mean, it was so humid yesterday, guys. I mean, it felt like summer. Here you go. You see the tropical system coming in, subtropical Nicole. This is actually going to help pull some dry air from this kind of trough that's not really digging deep, but it's going to yank on this dry air, yank it from the northeast, and you'll notice a big difference if you're in the Carolinas, even Tennessee, and North Georgia as you're waking up tomorrow morning. This will bring in a much drier air mass temporarily, but this is really nice. This will make it all the way into the panhandle of Florida. So this is a nice air mass that will move in tomorrow, well, tonight. So these are dew points, not temperature, guys. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Stay tuned tonight. Big video. And just a reminder, guys, hit me up on Twitter. It's a great way to follow along. I'll keep you guys updated. Winter's approaching, so some fun times ahead if you're a winter weather fan. But it's always fun for me when you talk winter weather. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and have yourselves a great Monday.